All right, it's story time on CJ MMA, and this one could very well be a dark and sad story depending on the outcome of tomorrow's fights. But it does culminate in an official pick at the end of this little walk down memory lane. And I most so want to get this video out, so if anything was to happen, people wouldn't just say, oh, well, didn't see this one coming, freak accident, things happen. This is completely avoidable. And we're going to jump into the story of Zach Ziggy Johnson. I actually met Zach Ziggy Johnson July 25th, 2015, Whitehall, New York. So a friend of mine, Ryan Donnelly, good friend of mine, he's fighting co-main event. Whitehall, New York is like an hour across the border from Vermont. So a lot of times you hear New York, it's not New York. New York City is what you think of when you think of New York, but New York City is such a small piece of it. Staten Island is such a small piece of it. Like the majority of New York, huge land mass, is upstate New York. And sure enough, we're in this small little town, rugged little town, a lot of people from Vermont down there. My buddy's fighting on the card. And there's one other Canadian team, Inception MMA. Derek Charbonneau is their head coach. He's got two fighters on the card. One of them's Tony Linder. He's a college kid. He's back from college. He's out of shape. He's fighting a weight class too high, looking to have a good time. So the team shoots down there. So when we go to these shows, a lot of the time we end up linking with the Canadian teams because you know these guys. You have pre-existing relationships with them. And in this case, with Derek Charbonneau and his team, Inception MMA, we know these guys. So I'm talking to Tony, and I says, Tony, who you fighting? He says, Zach Johnson. So what do you know about him? Knows nothing about him. So let me do my thing, Tony. I'll look into the guy, and I'll find out everything we need to know about one Zachary Johnson. So I get looking at what can you really find on a guy that's 0-0 as an amateur. He's got no amateur experience, obviously no professional experience, no kickboxing, no wrestling, no jiu-jitsu. I try to find anything on him. And what I do find is that Zach Johnson was actually a pretty good high school athlete, was a star on his football team. From there, he goes to a community college in upstate New York and plays a little bit of football there. After college, he signs a semi-professional contract with a team called the Watertown Red and Black. Now, Watertown is another border town. It's a military town in upstate New York. And I guess they got the semi-professional football team, which according to Wikipedia, it's the oldest semi-professional football team in the United States. And you can trace its history back to 1896. Although professional football researchers claim it was actually founded as an athletic club in 1899. So they got like the most wins all time, 565 all-time wins for a semi-pro team. So this Zach Johnson had played there. He'd also been offered a international, like overseas indoor football contract. So I'm thinking Tony is fucked, man. When you show up to these amateur fights, you don't know who you're getting. And it turns out you just got a college athlete. You got a college athlete that was a good football player. Sure enough, this guy's going to be a good athlete. So I don't want to tell Tony I think he's fucked. So I says, you know what? I'm going to sneak my way over into the enemy's dressing room, walk around, talk to people. At these shows, you end up talking to a bunch of people. See if I can maybe meet the Zach Johnson guy, get a better read on him. So go into the blue corner's dressing room, walking around, looking around. Don't see nothing. Here's somebody, says Zach Johnson. I look over, and there's a very unassuming little man sitting in the corner. He's maybe about 5'8", out of shape, 155 pounder, could probably make 135 pounds if he had set his mind to it. At this point, he's already in his early 30s, very unassuming, built like a bag of milk. There is in no way, shape, or form would you have ever believed that this guy was a football player, but I guess he's super game. And, I'm going to go over and talk to him. Zach Johnson says yes. Get talking to him. It's immediately apparent that either he has a bad stutter or he's got compounded concussions. Like when he talks, he jitters, he loses his train of thought. He has to overthink about what he wants to say. This guy doesn't seem in very good shape. So I ask him, how long have you been training? 6 weeks. 6 weeks for this fight? Nope, 6 weeks in total. You just start training 6 weeks ago and you're taking your first amateur MMA fight? Yes, sir. I got to talk to his coaches. Where are your coaches, man? Don't got coaches. He's here at this event, Whitehall, New York, drove himself, him and a buddy. Buddy, never been to an MMA gym before, just there to support his friend. They got team fucking shirts on. Zach Ziggy Johnson, custom-made shirts. It's his first amateur fight. He's been training for 6 weeks. I'm thinking something's off here. Ooh, who's going out with you? He says, well, my buddy's going to corner me and another fighter on the card, because my buddy knows nothing about fighting. This other guy in the card who's going to fight too. He's the first fight on the card. So some guy in the 5th or 6th fight volunteered, like, I'll tell you what, I'll go with you as well. Says, you got buckets? No buckets, no ice, no water, no end swell, no Vaseline. This is amateur MMA in upstate New York. Okay. You don't get equipment. Your corner man is essentially your cut man. You got to bring all your shit with you. He's got nothing. So I run back to Tony and I say, listen, Tony, I now think you're going to maul this guy absolutely real bad. So I'm going to corner Zach Johnson tonight. I'm not going to say nothing to him. In fact, It's not even good to get out of the first round. But let me go out there with him. Let me bring him water. Let me bring him some ice. Let me just make sure this guy's not in over his head, not going to get hurt. But I promise, Tony, I'm not going to give him I'm not going to say anything to him. I'm just going to be there. So this video is readily available on YouTube. You can watch it. It's under WAC MMA Heatwave, Tony Linder, Lindner versus Zach Johnson. You can see Zach Johnson walks out at the 48-second mark, and sure enough, I'm there wearing a Wu-Tang Clan shirt, sitting behind him. His buddy who he had brought is to the left wearing one of those like old-timey Irish Boston hats. He's got the custom shirt on, and you can see the fighter guys over on the other side. So we go in with Zach. You can tell he's not in great shape. Tony walks out after. Fight starts at about 4:12, I believe. Okay, so if you've got the video up, 4:12, fight starts, touch of the gloves. Okay, Zach clearly has no idea what he's doing. Short little jab, just grazes him. Short, almost like a push. Drops him. Could be the first time he's ever been punched in the face. We know he has no training. We know he probably has, I don't know what happened in football. At the time, I didn't know what happened in football. It turns out the league had more or less said, Zach, you've had too many concussions. You can't play anymore. Football no longer became an option to him. They try to get him as a recruiter, and they want to for him to be part of football, after the fact. But the league said no. So he switched from being a football player to switch to being an MMA fighter on a fly. This jab folds him. He pops back up. He sticks both of his hands out and eats one right hand across the chin. Now, you see in the video very clear as day. I put both hands up. I look at Tony, and I yell, stop. Because I talked to this guy in the back, and I know how banged up he is in the head. And the last thing he needs is a ground and pound shot. He's already out. He's been hit twice effectively. A mild jab, which dropped him to the floor, and a right hand, which has completely put him up. In the video, you see him get up, and then he face plants right back down to the ground. He's all the way out. That should have been the end of the Zach Johnson story, but it was. See, Zach Johnson is out of his mind. He's got this belief that he's a professional athlete. He's got this belief that he's a fighter. And when football didn't work out, he became this MMA fighter. So when I told him, like, hey, man, you gotta set it up. No, don't worry. So I had the guy on Facebook, and sure enough, he takes a second amateur fight. Only this time around, he's taking on, a pure grappler. So there's a good chance that Zach Johnson's not going to get hit in the head versus this pure grappler. Fight starts. He gets taken down immediately by this Ben Minich. Ben Minich lands 2 ground and pound shots, and it causes Zach Johnson to just go face first in the canvas, cover his head. The guy actually gets a rear naked choke with no hooks in. He's not even on his back. He's like almost in the side of him with a rear naked choke. And the ref stops it. Zach Johnson's out. Just the 2 little soft ground and pound shots. Out. You can watch the video on YouTube again. So at this point, I don't know why I did this. And my friend Ryan helped me as well. I felt compelled to help the guy. So I would then write to promoters when I would see Zach Johnson come up on shows and urge them not to use Zach Johnson. I know. Full-grown man can make his own choices. Who am I to go behind his back and do that? But what I would notice on Facebook is his friends and family would every fucking time urge him, don't do this, Zach. Zach, please don't. Zach, what about football, man? All those concussions. Zach, you can't be doing this. And he would just block, delete. You don't support me? Get off my page. My life. Block, delete. Not saying it that coherently, but he's typing, so it seems a lot more coherent than had he actually said it himself. So now he's just got these yes men. So I felt the need to help him. So I wrote to these promoters. The thing with MMA and the fight business in general is they don't give a fuck. They're not there to help the athlete. They're not there to help the man. They're there for their own personal gain. They just need a guy on the card. They don't give a shit. So eventually, there was nothing more I could do for him. The guy has those 2 amateur MMA fights. He got folded in 9 seconds against Tony Linder. He lasted, I don't know, it must have been 45 seconds maybe against Ben Minich. He turns professional. Turns pro as an MMA fighter. CES MMA, a credible organization. Top organization in the state of Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Probably one of the best, Eastern promotions in the United States, for a regional show. Top notch. They bring him in. Takes on Nathan Garib. Nathan Garib's currently signed to a Bellator contract. What kind of matchmaking is this? But as you can expect, Garib goes out and he knocks him out. 54 seconds. Zach Johnson feels the heat and he folds over. It's just another concussion and another long line of concussions. This should be the end of the Zach Johnson story, but it's not. See, when you're delusional, it's all about making excuses. It's all about you can't take ownership to this is wrong, I shouldn't be doing this, so you pass blame. And in Zach's case, I'm not an MMA fighter. Why did I think I was an MMA fighter? I'm a pro boxer. And yes, the fucking guy abandons MMA, and turns pro in boxing. Only here's the thing. Things ain't going to get any better. He currently rocks an 0-6 professional boxing record. He was knocked out first round all 6 times. They hit him. He goes down. To his credit, he actually took on a couple guys. Cornell Hines is signed to Golden Boy. Adrian Sosa is undefeated. Tyree Jones is undefeated. Why take these fights? I don't know, but he doesn't have a manager, okay? And he'll accept anything. The fucking guy won't say no. And he gets 6 more first-round knockouts in the sport of boxing. Bad knockouts, ripped to the head, probably half a dozen more concussions. This should be the end of the Zach Johnson story. But it's not. It's not. See, when he realized at this point, shit, I'm not a professional boxer. I'm a bare knuckle boxer. See, the reason I can't win a pro boxing match is my style is more suited to bare knuckle boxing. So yeah, he calls up David Feldman, and David Feldman initially is pretty reluctant. Like, nah, can't do it. But Zach Johnson's a persistent guy. So he starts attending all the BKFC shows. And he buys the shirts, and he buys the VIP pass, and he goes around and he mingles with the people. He talks to the ring announcer. He talks to the matchmaker. He talks to Nate Shook. He talks to all these guys. Gets everybody. Now you see him all the time. And he begs every time, I want to fight, I want to fight, I want to fight. So they put him through 2-3 sets of tryouts. And he gets through the tryouts, I guess. So they book him to fight on this BKFC New York show. First time they're going to New York. Zach Johnson. On the card. Unbelievable. Taking on this. He was initially supposed to take on this guy that would have absolutely murdered. And he's still going to get murdered. But that guy pulls out and he gets this Dave Morgan. It seems on paper like it's more suited. But it's not. Zach Johnson's not a fighter. Zach Johnson can't take a punch. This other guy's got 2 bare knuckle boxing matches. See, here's the thing with bare knuckle boxing as opposed to gloved boxing, right? You put a boxing glove on, you go hit a punching bag. You can hit it as hard as you want. You can have a bad punch, bad angle. Doesn't matter. You can hit it as hard as you want. You put an MMA glove on, you can't get away with quite as much, but you could probably hit the thing pretty good. You go bare knuckle, you can't land your best shots. You can't land your hardest shots. And if you do, all of a sudden it's like, geez, my knuckles are on fire. My wrist is jarred. My thumb is sore. You can't land the same shot. So this other guy's at least fought twice. Zach's never experienced this before. He couldn't get it through boxing. He couldn't got through MMA. Shouldn't be there. So the last question would be, well, it's the state of New York. So how does this guy keep getting licensed? And there, my friends, is the $1 million question. But here's the thing. See, bare knuckle boxing is actually not sanctioned in the state of New York. So what David Feldman and company did was decide to go to upstate New York, to the Seneca Casino. And for the record, the Seneca Casino is a facility in Salamanca, New York, on the Allegheny Indian Reservation. Features a casino, spa, 6 restaurants, new hotel completed in 2007. Native commission, native land, no oversight. There's no actual commission. I don't even know what kind of medicals he would have had to have passed. Blood test. I fought on these reservation cards before. You need a blood test. That's about it. No MRI, no head scan, no CAT scan, none of that. CT, nothing. And so for a guy that's had no less than a dozen concussions in his football career, fights 3 times as an MMA fighter, twice as an amateur, once as a pro, knocked out twice, both times in under a minute. One time he got submitted, took 2 shots, and he pretty looked flattened from those 2 shots. And then 6 professional boxing matches, knocked out first round all 6 times. And so when I saw him on this card, part of me was like, oh, man, it feels sick to my stomach. And then I seen it was at minus 115, still feels sick to my stomach. BKFC's out here trying to get a man killed. And so if something was to happen to Zach Johnson, the sport of bare knuckle boxing is going to be a lot of shit. Going to be in a lot of trouble. It's going to be viewed as barbaric. 2 guys died in the span of a month. UFC's been running shows for 25 years, 30 years almost 30 years they've been running shows. Never had a death. MMA's had a death, not UFC. Do you know why that is? Because one of them is regulated, and one of them, the deaths end up being on these small, unregulated amateur shows. Zach Johnson has got through on these lowly regulated amateur shows. He's taken a ton of damage, and any one shot could end up being the one that causes his brain to swell or bleed. Shouldn't be in the spot, but he is. And so anyways, I kind of, well, okay, let's talk about his replacement opponent, David Morgan. So he shows no professional boxing experience, no professional amateur experience. He has 1 recorded amateur MMA fight on Tapology for a promotion called WFF. WFF was a Arizona show that was largely co-operated by David Feldman, who's from Arizona. This kid had fought on like 30 shows for Feldman, amateur boxing, these one-night smoker boxing matches. By his own account, in an interview he did with BKFC last year, before his fight with Travis Thompson, which he got his ass kicked in, Travis Thompson's a legitimate bare-knuckle boxer. He also fought for Toe the Line. He's got 2 bare knuckle boxing matches. By his own account, over 80 boxing matches, 20 more smoker MMA fights. He figures he's got about 100 fights. And he's friends with Feldman. He's fought for him before. So he's been begging. He went to the Arizona tryout. Get me another fight. Get me another fight. I lost the last one. I really want back in there. Zach Johnson needs an opponent. Feldman throws it together. My worry is that it only just takes one punch for Zach Johnson to topple over. And it's happened so many times at this point. It's not going to go good. So minus 115. Here's the one tad issue that I may have caused for us is I kind of let the cat slip a little bit on the Propping You Up show with Lock of the Night last night. And a couple people messaged me, and then I hammered it on 2 books. It was soft caps. They didn't let me put more than $1,000 on either one of them, but I hammered it on 2 lines. And so I've seen that the fight's locked on at least 3 books and not added on 4 more books. But if your bookmaker, whoever you're with, offers BKFC lines, bet Dave Morgan over Zach Johnson. That is your lock. That is your pick. It was minus 115 when I got it. Can't see it fluctuating all that much. If your book doesn't offer BKFC, sometimes it will add it. See the fights tomorrow. So sometimes they will add it just before. And I know it sounds very grim and very dark from trying to profit over a man's health and safety, but that's where it goes back to he's a full-grown man making his own choices. I tried to help this guy. I wrote to those promoters. I did worry about him. He's a good guy. He's a nice guy. And as far as I'd say he's got a family that loves him, that family who loves him tried to protect him too, but he pushed them away. And so this is the path that he's chosen to go down. And if he was to win, it would be a glorious moment and everything all his perseverance would have paid off. But from what I saw, this man's not going to have a pleasant experience come Saturday night. So God bless him. Whatever God you may believe in, send your well wishes to Zach Johnson because I don't want him to get hurt. I don't want something bad to happen. Nobody would ever want that. You wouldn't even wish that on your worst enemy, unless your worst enemy was a real son of a bitch. Then maybe. But yeah, I hope Zach's okay. The main thing here is, though, if they are going to offer a minus 115 line, I got to load up on that. So there's your story time with Cody. Maybe you found it interesting. Maybe you didn't find it interesting. I have like 100 of these stories, but this one was only relevant because Zach Johnson actually appeared on a professional card with a betting line associated with it. So I just had to throw that out there. Anyways, if you enjoyed it or you did enjoy it, is what it is. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck on the actual real picks. This is a real pick. If we could have picks like this all the time, it'd be great to have that insider info. But in this case, if you can bet it, great. If not, you will be able to watch it, and I don't see it lasting more than a minute. Anyways, talk to you guys later. Best of luck.